So your employee has failed the first line drug test, and we now need to prepare the sample that they've given us and send it off to the laboratory. So initially we asked them to provide urine, and they urinate into the pot or the cup as we have here. So in a few minutes I'm going to show you what to do with that sample of urine, but we need to go through the chain of custody test consent form first. So when you buy a chain of custody or laboratory test from us, included in the kit, you'll get a chain of custody test consent form, and it'll be like this here. So I want to run through the form so you've got a good idea about how to fill it in prior to sending it back to the lab. Some of the details will already be filled out, so customer code, customer telephone number, customer postcode and customer name, that's our company details. There is, to the side of that, it says site location. This is where you'll put your details, so this will be your company and where the test was taken. Underneath that, you'll need to state why you did the test or the reason for test, so that could either be something like pre-employment, pre-sponsorship, random, unannounced, scheduled, for cause, or post-incident. If there's any other reason, you'll need to write that in the box there where it says other, please list reason. Underneath that, your name, the collector's name, and underneath that, the donor's name, donor's date of birth, collection time, collection date. You'll only need a sentinel number if your employees work within the rail industry, and they are required to have a sentinel number. And underneath that, if you have it, it's useful to put in the employee's national insurance number. Underneath that, you're going to need to state what medication they've taken. So you've already done the first line test consent form, which you filled out when you asked them to urinate into the pot, and you would have asked them what medication they've taken in the last 2 weeks. You'll simply need to transfer that information onto this form here now. So medication, the dosage, the day they last used it, and the time. You'll notice that there's only enough space for 3 types of medication in this box, and if they've taken more than that, then it's acceptable to put a plain piece of paper in with the form when you send it back to the laboratory. If they haven't taken medication, they simply tick the box that says I am not taken and have not taken medication in the last 14 days. Or if they have taken medication, but it's because for a sensitive condition, they simply tick the box to the right which says I am taking medication but I don't want to declare it. Whether they've taken medication or not, they have to sign the donor consent, donor signature for medication declaration there. And underneath that it says alcohol breath result. That's not going to be of concern to you because you're going to be breathalyzing people. And to the right of that it says POCT. POCT stands for point of care test. And this initial test you've done was a point of care test. So you're going to need to write some of the details about that test onto this form. You'll need to state whether it was urine or oral fluid. In this case it was urine, so tick the box there. And all the details for the point of care test is found on the packaging. So you've got drug kit lot number, drug kit expiry date, and the reference number for the test kit itself. So you'll need to write that onto here. You'll also need to say whether it was negative or non-negative, and I'm assuming because you're sending a sample off to a laboratory it's a non-negative result. And you'll need to put in the little box here what it's non-negative for, so it could be COC, THC and so on. Underneath that, you're now going to need to tell the laboratory what you want them to test for. So please write laboratory test required here. So this is where you're now going to tell them that you want them to do a screen for THC, COC, or whatever the person has failed the first line test for. To the right of that, if it's in this case a urine test, you'll need to tick the box to say it's a urine test, and you'll need to say after you've done the initial test and you looked at the thermometer, you'll need to say what the temperature check was, and that will normally be between 32 and 38 degrees, and if it was, you'll simply need to tick the box to say it's within those parameters. To the left here, further down, donor consent to test. So this is where they consent to you sending this off to the laboratory. They'll need to read the statement, sign it and date it. And you are the collecting officer, so you'll need to sign and date your declaration here on the right. The only thing left to do is to get the employee to sign or initial and date these 2 anti-tamper seals at the bottom, one marked A and one marked B. When the sample is received by the laboratory, These two seals must be over the pots of urine that you're going to send off, and it must have their initial and date on each of the seals. And that's how to complete a chain of custody test form prior to sending a sample back to the laboratory.